A storm is coming for your Thanksgiving, and that will set the stage for an Arctic blast that looks to unfold as we head into December. Let's take a look at the overall setup this morning and break down the details for you. As we head into your Thursday for your Thanksgiving, we're going to be starting to see a ridge of high pressure that's going to be building over Alaska, as well as another high pressure that's also going to be building over Greenland. That is going to be pretty significant because it's going to allow the coldest air of the season to funnel in to the lower 48. And I think that starts on Thursday, but it'll really start to amplify as we get deeper into your Friday for your Thanksgiving weekend, and especially as we head into your December. So let's take a look at the setup now on your satellite picture, because we are in between systems for your Saturday, November the 24th. And what we're looking at, we're coming off that mid-latitude cyclone event that pounded the West Coast. We're still feeling the effects from that, but man, they had some devastating winds off the West Coast, really torrential rains, especially into Northern California. And they dealt with all those power outages. And of course, we had that pretty big snowstorm across areas of Pennsylvania into New York. I know New Jersey broke the state record of 20 inches and some of the higher elevations there. So that was really significant. And there could be more snow coming for your Thanksgiving. So right now we're in between systems, and looking at the radar, there's not much really happening. There's just kind of sporadic rain showers coming off the West Coast. We are going to be amping those totals up as we get into the afternoon with another wraparound moisture that's coming in off the West Coast. But other than that, it's fairly clear for this morning across a good part of the lower 48. But what we'll be watching is a series of colder shots of air. So this is kind of just the preliminary stages. So definitely warm across the south today. It's definitely not going to feel like end of November by any of the stretch of the imagination, but you can definitely see the pink and the purple start showing up on the map. That is the beginning stages of the colder air that will be starting to build up here in Canada, and then finally going to be releasing southbound. It's really compliments of the teleconnection. If we start just looking at the WPO, which is your West Pacific Oscillation, that's a good sign. It predominantly stays negative for your rest of November and heading into your first week of December. That definitely applies. That colder air that's going to be coming down from Canada will be highlighted across the central and eastern 2/3 of the US, setting up that cross polar flow pattern that I think we're going to be locking in. So going in tomorrow, this is what we have, heading into, tomorrow, going into your late Sunday, heading into Monday timeframe. We'll still have more precipitation with the kind of the leftover residual effects from that mid-latitude cyclone. Now we're talking areas even further south into California, benefiting and some beneficial rains getting into central and even trying to sneak into portions of Southern California. But further up to the north, you can definitely see the colder air, and that's that 540 line dipping down into Missouri. That is, again, the beginning stages of the first initial plunge. And then this will be, a little bit deeper and colder, especially as we head toward the end of November and going into those first couple of days of December. But for your Tuesday coming up for the 26th of November, this is what we're looking at here, as we've got the rain coming back into play with that first initial cool front coming in, going to be spreading its precipitation across West Virginia here and portions of Pennsylvania. But the colder air is still predominantly going to be up here into Canada, just kind of the beginning stages of what's to come as we sneak towards your Thanksgiving. So the day before, we still have this rapid rebound. We'll be having those roller coaster temperatures further south. And yes, areas in Texas and across the southeast are going to be plenty warm as we head into that day before Thanksgiving, your Wednesday. But there is the colder shot of air that's definitely going to be building up here into Alaska. Some of these places really drop well below zero up there in Alaska. That tells you there's definitely a lot of cold air to speak of. And that finally that's going to be losing its grip and push into British Columbia and back into the central part of the U.S. and eventually head into the Ohio Valley and into the East Coast. And eventually I think this will sneak into the Southeast and bringing them widespread freezes and their coldest temperatures of the season. But it is going to be a step down process. There is your Thursday. I think the cold front impacts the southern areas as we head into Wednesday night. We could have some stronger storms further south into the southeast, but there's the initial push of colder air. And then, of course, you got the deep purples building back behind it. That tells you there's likely some Arctic air and some below zero air. But that will set the stage for a fairly decent sized storm that will set up of the Ohio Valley. We should see an area of low pressure that will start to deepen again over some of the same areas that got some heavier snows with this last event. So yes, places back into Indiana, back into Ohio, back into Pennsylvania, New York, back, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, into Maine. They should be picking up some pretty decent totals going into Thursday and Friday. So here's the initial setup. Heading into your Thanksgiving morning, we will likely see the stronger storms further south into the southeast, with more rain sneaking back in the picture for them as we have an area of low pressure starting to develop and starting to deepen. And as we wrap around and see that first initial, so you can see the red line there, that is your freezing line. So anything north of there is obviously going to be all snow. So yeah, it should be changing over to snow in northern portions of Illinois, northern areas of Indiana, places like into Cleveland again, where they had that heavy snow during that NFL game of the Browns and the Steelers the other night. We could be looking at a similar type setup unfolding there, and back into Pennsylvania as well as into New York. As that low pressure starts to deepen, now we're talking about a 993 millibar as we get into the afternoon hours on your Thursday. Will be all snow to the north and then rain along the coastal regions of southern New England as the low starts to deepen. And now as we head into your Friday morning, yeah, we're talking down to a 988 millibar. So it likely is going to be heavy snow on the backside heading into Vermont and New Hampshire and back into areas into Maine. And then along the coastal regions, it should be all rain with this low pressure as it continues to lift off to the northeast. But back behind it, there's that first initial colder shot. So this would be the day after Thanksgiving. So your Friday coming up on the 29th. Yeah, you got that initial shot of cooler air, but then you can see definitely some more purple starting to build up here into British Columbia, trying to sneak into places like into Montana, back into the Dakotas. And yeah, true temperatures heading into Black Friday as you wake up. All those areas that are highlighted over the pink and purple, that is all below zero air. This is not even wind chills. This is what it actually is, down to 11 below zero. So yeah, it's been a while, right? It's been a fairly mild fall so far, but so this is a true sign of winter looking to unlock as we head into the end of the month of November, going into your first couple of days of meteorologically winter for your December. And the freeze line dips all the way down into Oklahoma, essentially into Tennessee, back into Kentucky, through West Virginia, areas into Pennsylvania, and further south, you'll sneak into the 30s, back into the areas of the southeast. But you can see the cross-polar flow. I mean, this is definitely a true sign. You got the the ridge of high pressure locked over Alaska. You've got the ridge locked over areas of Greenland. You've got the negative WPO, which is your west Pacific oscillation, bringing the ridge into play across the west coast. Much of the desert southwest will miss out on this colder blast, with the cross-polar flow impacting the British Columbia areas, back in through the north central plains, through the Ohio Valley, into the East Coast, and eventually this will swing into those areas across the Southeast, getting into December. So before that, we'll have a little bit of a moisture to play, not much, but we'll have another, some as the Gulf of Mexico really doesn't quite open up, but there is at least some precipitation along the coastal regions and along that colder blast. Again, there's going to be some, but we wouldn't look to be any fairly significant amounts with that second system and the colder system coming in as we head into that December 1st time frame. So this, if anything, could be like some bigger lake effect snow impacts across the Great Lakes into areas that you normally get that lake effect snow, as the winds will be traversing across on the backside. And as those tight isobars tighten up, you know, those lakes are plenty warm still. So those likely could be picking up some fairly significant totals on the lake effect snow front, as the colder air will start to find itself and pushing further south into areas that really hasn't seen the deep cold as of yet. So, you know, going into your December 2nd, your Monday time frame for as we start the month of December, yeah, it definitely looks, you know, you got your ridge out west, right? So you got the cross polar flow setting up. The more predominant push of colder air, the deepening cold, will be over the Great Lakes areas into the Ohio Valley. That will swing into the mid-Atlantic and stay eastbound. And then further south, it'll be more of a moderated type version. It tends to sink further southeast, but not technically first south. So Oklahoma will likely get in the action. Texas would likely miss out on most of this, you know, colder air, just areas to the north and likely northeast as we get into that first part of December. But you can definitely feel it on to the body with that wind chill dropping well below zero heading into that Monday time frame. We've got widespread negative teens, as it feels like, as you wake up on that Monday. Even back into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio should be all below zero, feels like to the body, even sneaking down into 20, widespread 20s feels like into the southeast. So this is definitely some colder air that's going to be on the table, you know, as we head into those first couple of days of December and going into meteorology winter. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update. Wire protect you before and after storm.